AZOPALIX 8, and it's May 10th, 2026. 8 is the number of completion for me. And it's kind of fitting because I'm feeling an intense completion, a stillness so profound 2 days after official disclosure. Well, that was Friday. But I mean, some of us have known. It feels like time has stopped. And now we can experience on a horizontal level everything that's going on right now, this very minute, which is everybody mostly stuck in their routines. So they're not appreciating this. I don't think you can appreciate this if you're rushing to work. At this point, you're probably already at work. It's a little bit after 9. An intense, profound stillness that reminds me of Sun Ra's statement in one of his songs. It's after the end of the world. Don't you know that yet? Yeah, but it wasn't quite. At that point, it was the 80s. Still had more end of the world to go there. No, but so we did have disclosure on Friday. I mean, it's been a slow progress, and I think it's going to work out because Stephen Greer is right on top of it, keeping it from going to the fear version of it, which would have us all try to fight the rest of the cosmos. Um, but there's something that's been happening on the planet, and all of these prophecies kind of pointing towards a kind of resolution. At least, not all of them are resolutions. Some of them are just phasing into the next section of whatever. But some of them are full on. Well, the only ones that are complete to me, it's the Jehovahite one, Judgment Day, and then Heaven on Earth. Heaven on earth implies to me the union of heaven and earth, which is spirit and material. That's how I'm saying it looks like to the rest of the. There's a lot of perspectives on earth represented. I break them down into the three main ones, but there's really two spirit ones that clash, and I say they don't clash. So now then you don't have but it's difficult to see how there is a focused intentionality, which corresponds to the Jehovahite energy. It comes up later. If you just use your own as above, so below as a metaphor, and then you understand yourself correctly, you understand that you come into being. Forget the sources. The sources are community and mom and all that. But if you start with the beginning of who you are, and you're not even really feeling it yet, but you're there. You're nourishing. You don't have memory of this yet as a baby. You're just taking it all in, nourishing, fulling, and then you open up, and you go, "What's going on?" And then here comes culture. Right now, you start having influences. You picture that happening at the very beginning, before there's anything at all, and you can see the psychology of some of potentially the early elders, and hmm, quantum physics. So the materialite is the other version of this that I know. Let me not lose that thought. So you come into being, and all of this is the nourishing, the inward. This is all feminine energy. So the first being to wake up is kind of feminine, but this is again the jeez. I'm just talking about how the one mind and the focus intentionality actually do work together. It goes through a few phases. The first being is Sophia, but she's alone at first because there's a coming into being that happens once with a three-sided paradox. The whole reality is so solipsistic that people don't take it seriously. Like, how is that even possible? You hear it almost as a thing of magic. You can make it all, uh, it's whatever you want it to be. Not quite. Not quite. But, and yet, it's based on it's based on beingness. The Tibetans describe it accurately when they say our essence is emptiness, our nature lucidity. If you let lucidity evolve, it evolves into love. But that doesn't explain the understanding of it. um, the understanding of the not how we got here, but what it is. What it is that we are lucidity. We are the capacity to understand. Understand what? Understand ourselves. Trying to understand. The solipsism there is like breaks your head, and you think, yeah, that's. But that's what it feels like to you, right? But now we have a whole physical plane that seems to be in the way of you just being able to poof up some things, including if you say Jehovah. It's Jehovah's cosmos. Why can't he just poof it up? Because it's not Jehovah's cosmos. He's the creative force in it. He is. And entities are genuinely one. I mean, they're perspectives, energies. If we're just going to buy into all of this, add it all up. What does it all add up to? It does come together, whether your understanding of it comes together to match the reality of it being there, whether you get it or not. And so you have these perspectives that all of them seem to not quite. Like if you're buying into the Jehovah Creator God thing, well, how did he get there? And why is he making? Why does he start making things? And then you get even the one mind uh, don't explain how reality, how material happens. You have a one mind, and both of those. It's curious how, as I say, there's three. The third one being materialite, pure material. Look at the material plane, how it works. Only recent reductionist science has really gotten to the details of that. Even some of the higher wisdoms that people talk about, Atlantis or some of the earlier civilizations with crystals and all this, somehow they didn't really get into the reductionist science that explains molecules. And it's possible to get to higher civilizations, including ones that show up in UFOs, without necessarily doing the reductionist science that we've been doing. It's kind of so cold blooded that it's not natural. And yet we've done it. But it's also the blowback from that is that we have a lot of materialist values that seem to clash with the spirit values that are in pretty much all the previous cultures until it got. It's not just Western culture. Chinese culture also went dogmatic, scientific, imperial. When they get too materialistic, then you start. And the Roman Empire did a number on the whole Western spiritual side. Um, we're still parsing it out, and that's how you have different schools of Christianity. Some of them are closer to what Christ was saying, but the fact that there's a version of it that the empire transformed into a certain crowd control thing, that was going to happen. All of these things were going to happen, and all of them, if you come from any single perspective, it's partial. But there is a place that all comes together, and yet it's so solipsistically. Really, could it be that? Yes and no, because it happened like that. As I say, you take your own coming into being as above, so below to the whole cosmos, and your ability to direct what you're doing comes a little bit later. But then it is there. And that's when you start building upon your own, what you were handed, and you start creating your own life path. And strangely, that's what's happening, I say, in the cosmos. That's what the whole vision of a creator God, that this whole thing, this whole cosmos is not just, it's neither just a random occurrence from material, in other words, where consciousness and being is something that emerges later and the original thing is just abstract energy. What is that? It could, I suppose, be that still, but we can't. That does not make sense. And part of who we are is the making of sense. There is now. Here's the thing: is now, if it were such a materialist cosmos, then you wouldn't be able to prove in the lab that intentionality can move a randomizer towards more ones or more zeros, depending on what you want. In the other room, standing there, and if you're in there with someone you love and you both concentrate on making the randomizer do more ones, it multiplies, it quadrupleizes, it exponentializes it. Yeah, this is another kind of flowing all over the place, but the exponential factor is where we are now in history. It was seen, the Club of Rome predicted 50 years ago. This is where global warming, but just so many other parameters, our economics, our population, and information also. Information is the one that's going to save us. As it starts building on itself, it's an exponential factor. And you can see, the economic one. Everybody starts selling every last little bit, and then they go hog wild, selling even the last little microcosmic little just opinion. Now we're into where I could be trying to sell my face right now somehow, get a couple extra pennies if somebody on one of these social media can throw an ad or two in there, and people are doing that. How much does that distort the information? Yeah, you're saying it doesn't, but it does. But we're in a place where it's all kind of coming to a singularity. Verticality, exponential trends reach a place where it's virtually vertical. It's not exactly vertical because it's actually still curving, but it's going more straight up than. So time itself, where you can see the ideas one after the other, now they're all happening at once. And that's what in AZOPALIX 7, I was mentioning how the energies of reality all happen at once and then continuously happen ever since, have never stopped. The idea of thinking about what you're going to do next, it's in the flow of a million things happening all at once, that you have a chance to actually direct focused intentionality. And the idea, I'm coming back to this, that first of all, the cosmos is based on presence, as the Buddhite spiritual schools. Buddhite spiritual is what I'm calling all the other ones, including shamanism, all the ones that find a way to reach the reality of spirit. Now, the materialist schools have actually reached the beginnings of being able to prove that from quantum and from other experiments. Quantum entanglement, you can actually prove there's a mathematical explanation for a lot of the parameters from the idea of points of singularities, quantumly entangled, infinite quantumly entangled points kind of creates the material plane. Now, what that feels like from being there is that it actually happened in one place first. That's why you have a Sophia and a Jehovah who are different than the rest of us, but just by having gotten there first. And Sophia was the first entity, but there were a bunch of flurry of masculine ones that came in next from her panic. It's her panic on top of her bliss that created the extra ripples for potential, for places that could actually encapsulate the being there-ness. This sounds so crazy, right? So what? uh, because I'm not here to explain it to anybody. I'm here to more or less chart my insights on some of this, and I'm coming from vision, from having asked certain questions about where does reality come from. If you understand spirit, where does it come from? How does it come together? And it comes together that way, through an actual coming together of two entities that themselves came out of the presence field, so that the spirit schools have discovered. That's how you know they're real, because things work that way. And you're like, wow, amazing. Yeah, amazing. And yet difficult, because the material plane is its own entity, and the energies of coming together are beyond our own understanding. Even Jehovah's and Sophia have to let us experience the details, and the whole thing is a one mind, but it's also an infinity. That's where the paradoxes come in. I saw that the structural reality was a three-sided paradox, but that's also conceptual. It's a three-sided paradox, that you have a directed creator force on top of a one mind that all of us are. And yet there is a separate being. It's the same paradox, that you're separate while at the same time part of the whole one mind. And the Buddhists try to dissolve it back into the one mind by get rid of your ego. No, you have to understand your ego in a different way. Some of the 5D schools are talking about it. The Christian school is trying to explain it, and it's very difficult to explain. And so you get the Christian foreshortening of it that at least gets you in touch with the heart energy. And it's all good energy, and we do have it figured out, and it's going to be okay. But that's kind of difficult to explain to, first of all, the materialites, who are just seeing the breakdown of exponential resource use, but also the Buddhites, who understand the kind of oneness. And so how does it become forcefully somebody's intention? And how does all of our forceful intentions fit together and not kill each other? Well, we're working it out hard in real time in the so-called physical as opposed to spiritual. No, in the hard copy version of spiritual that lets it be 8 billion people with separate accounts. Up in heaven, you would just never have that level of detail. Heaven in the spirit dimension. So it gets worked out on the material plane, and there's an exponentiality to it that brings it vertical to right now. AZOPALIX 8. The apocalypse. It is after the end of the world, but it's also the beginning of bringing it home now.